G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. SkittyKitty the pussycat is about to go back to Kyogle for another week. What's a puss puss? Hey? SkittyKitty off to Kyogle? Yes, and isn't it a good thing we didn't kill you last week? Because you've had a whole week of being a pussycat and a happy one at that. I'll go down and open the gate for you. Here you go. Palliative care is an ongoing thing, so it turns out. As you can see, he's an adventurous little pussies of the catus variety. Hey, pussycat. See? Having a last look around. He'll be right, you'll come back in a week. If last week was any indication. Baggly tail cat, not bored with life yet. There they go, daughter and pussycat, the cat that would not die. It's all pretty good, and meanwhile I will get on with packing up after having not only pumped my boy wall tanks all the way up to the top, but I've also filled this 22,000 litre tank all the way up to there by climbing up on the ladder and using a fire hose to pump water in from the top. I put an extra 2,500 litres in. And now it's time to cart the ladder back up the hill. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. It's never boring. Ciao. Okay, 4,240, 4,280, that's usable litres. You wind up with about 500 litres stuck on the bottom you can't suck out, and about 6,100 litres usable. So now we take that, and not forgetting petrol, funnel and strainer, and collecting the hose gives us an opportunity to remember to open the valve. Otherwise, when we get to the other end, there'll be a vacuum lock up here and the water won't want to drain out of the pipeline. While I'm at it, I've been putting up with these hoses with partial failures where somebody's run over them or kinked them and pulled them real hard or done something stupid with them. I think I'm finally going to get some undegraded new hoses. It may be a bourgeois affectation, but I feel have as good a bloody fire hose as I can afford to use. What do you reckon, eh? If you're going to live in a bushfire fuel bomb, you've got to have a fire plan. Unless you plan to run away, you've got to have some firefighting equipment. If you're going to have firefighting equipment, you might as well have the best you can bloody afford, because otherwise, shit hits the fan, you're going to be like all those poor buggers in Hawaii, where you've got nothing else to do but run away. Whereas I'm hoping to be able to argue with the fire and convince it to go around me. If and when, who knows, time will tell. Now, apparently a lot of people can't really see why I bother draining the water out of the pipe, but part of it is that I don't want a sudden cold snap to cause all that water lying on the ground in my poly pipe to freeze and expand and split the pipe. Part of me doesn't want to have all that weight of the water pulling the poly pipe down the hill. I want it to stay in place. And when it's empty, it's got a better chance of doing that. It just takes longer, that's all. Glug, 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 water is still running in. Powered by the sun. Whereas when I go to shift water around, I'm doing it with distilled, fermented, pressurized, fossilized plankton. But I didn't use very much of it today, and I don't use it very often. And I haven't heard of anybody who's marketing a solar electric firefighting pump as such, unless you have a solar powered air compressor and a water cannon, and I've already got one of them. I suppose the best I can say is that at least I measure how much I use so I know what effect I'm having on the environment. Number 2, slightly overfill the tank, but I started from a slightly overfilled tank because my theory is if you have to use water from the bore tank in any kind of a hurry, it means the more petrol you got in that tank, the longer the pump's going to run before you have to come and refill it. And if you need water from here in a hurry, then you don't want to have to come down and refill the pump until you absolutely have to. Therefore we refill the pump after every time we use it, to be sure that it'll be ready to go next time. And now we make sure that we are switched off from the bore tank, and then we take off the Stewart's cap, hook the hose onto the outlet. We don't need a nozzle for this. A simple Mark 1 thumb will do. We're on. And then, because one day I might need it, I put all the water that's going to flow down out of 150 metres of 32mm poly pipe. I put it out here, sprinkle at thumb pressure, and initially it goes quite a long way, but then as the pressure drops, the stream doesn't go as far, so the entire semicircle all gets watered about the same, in theory. And that means if ever it all really goes to turds, I might have to come down here and hide in this little green patch that's been watered, sheltering from the radiant heat behind the water tanks. So the idea is, figure everything out beforehand and do what you can to mediate the worst risks, and have something in mind for when it all turns to turds. Because global warming is winning, and it probably is all going to turn to turds. And it's happening all over the world, so don't expect there to be huge amounts of rescue equipment as it goes on and on and on. And then when it won't squirt out the end of the pipe, just let it drain, and there will always be a little bit of water that gets trapped in the bottom bow there. So then once you've done that, then you can take this off, and then we can take that off. Pull the pins. And behold, we do not accidentally drain the tank by mistake. And then we put our dust cap on. Come on, pins, come out of there without stabbing me. And the pins go back in their little safety holes. And we can feel like a truly anally retentive, obsessive, compulsive amateur firefighter. And then before we can knock off, we have to drain the pump because otherwise, next time there's a frost, if there's water in that housing, it will crack, and I will have to pay about $170 to get the bloody thing welded back up again. Which was what happened last time I made that mistake. And after that, you have to remember to put that plug back in and screw it up, ready for next time when you want to use it. And if you forget to do up that plug, then next time you come down, you may even forget to put the thing back in. And after that, your pump's going to leak the whole time, because you'll think that the crack has opened up, and it won't be until after you've pumped your water and you go to put the pump to bed, you realise the reason it was leaking was because some fool forgot to put the plug in before starting the pump. So yeah, drain the pump casing and put the plug back as part of the shutdown put to bed procedure. And when you're starting it up, you might be in a hurry, and that's one less thing for you to forget. There we go, all put to bed. Okay, well, I burnt 1 litre of petrol, and by burning that litre of fuel, I took 2,500 litres out of that tank, and I put it in the top of that tank, and I shifted about another 1,500 litres, maybe, from that tank up the hill and put it into my buoy walls. 1 litre. Do you know how long it would have taken to do that with buckets and hand pumps? When you think about how much work you get out of 1 litre of petrol, it's going to be very, very difficult to see any other power source competing with little jobs like that in terms of energy density, power to weight ratio, safety in transport. The problem is that 1 litre is going to turn into, or it has turned into, 2.5 kilograms of fossil carbon emitted to the atmosphere by me, and that fossil carbon is going to continue to heat the planet for another 25 years. That's to do 95% of the heating it's going to achieve. To do that little bit of a job there, I'm going to be putting up with the shitty hot weather that I'm causing for another 25 years. All those fires on Hawaii, that's caused by fuel that humanity burnt, fossil fuel, natural gas, coal, petroleum oil, before 1998. If West Antarctica and Greenland go plop plop tomorrow and sea level rises 12 metres and all the international trade and transport is shut down and nobody can ship oil to the refinery or from the fuel from the refinery to anywhere, if the whole bloody shit show and shooting match shuts down tomorrow, it's going to get hotter every year for another 25 years minimum. And about the only thing that's going to ameliorate that is if somebody can convince bloody Putin to nuke NATO and have a spasmic thermonuclear exchange in the northern hemisphere at the same time that we shut down atmospheric, industrial, global scale emission of fossil carbon to the sky. Because if we could have a decent nuclear winter at the same time as we stop spitting shit in the sky, maybe, perhaps, possibly it won't get quite so hot for the next 25 years because we'll be under a shadow of ash and soot and shit in the sky. But daring to hope or expect that any such calamitous coincidence would have a beneficial, fortuitous, serendipitous effect, it's a pretty long step. It's a long bow to draw. It's a difficult thing to hope for, but do we have any other thing to hope for? A sudden cessation of all fossil carbon emissions to the atmosphere, and maybe a nuclear winter to shield us from the worst effects of immediate global warming. I'm really, really glad that every election for the last 43 years I've voted Green, and the Greens at least had a policy of halting carbon emissions to the atmosphere. Because even though the people who voted to expand the economy, regardless of any, perceived environmental degradation, damage, danger or consequences. The people who voted for that proposal, grow the economy regardless of the environment, they beat us, they won, but at least I didn't do most of the shit didn't cause most of the shit that's going on. It's happening and I can't stop it, but at least I didn't bloody well cause most of it. And the little bit that I do cause, I flagellate myself afterwards constantly because I know what the filthy pig I'm being. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. SkittyKitty's got it pretty good, hasn't he? Because he doesn't understand most of this shit. Ciao.